The time you haven't heard from me in a year, and it's time for a new project. What is going on, everybody? I hope you are doing well, and welcome to another video on the channel where I am happy to show you the new project car. You saw a glance of it in the intro, but the new car is a 92 Camaro RS. This is a 25th anniversary Camaro, just like all of the Camaros from 92. It is not a Heritage Edition, which was a limited edition model. This car is a 305 throttle body injected, also known as TBI, V8 engine, and makes a whopping 170 horsepower. If you are unfamiliar with third gen Camaros, they are from 1982 to 92. Those earlier years up to 85, you had an RS and a Z28 model. The performance model that came with a bigger engine was tune port injected. This was a new setup by GM instead of it being throttle bodied, and it came with a 305 V8. Now, with the Z28 Camaros up till 85, you had the IROC as an option, which was an appearance package with stiffer suspension and a bar that went across the front that is known as the Wonder Bar. This is basically a way to connect the front suspension because since this is a unibody car, they were noticing that there was a lot of flex in the car, especially if you were dogging on it. Now, starting in 1986, that's when they made the IROC the top trim package, and GM reintroduced the 350 V8. This time, it was a TPI, again, tune port injected V8. Briefly, let me talk about why I decided to get a third gen Camaro. I was on a Facebook drag racing page, and I saw somebody post an 88 IROC. It was a true 350 car for $3,200. They did all of the body work, they had all of the parts to put it back together, they just ran out of time and they were looking to unload it. I immediately jokingly sent it to my cousin saying if I brought this home, my wife would totally divorce me, and he then, as a good cousin, said, well, you don't have to bring it back to your house, you can bring it here. Fast forward to that weekend, I then showed that to my wife and I jokingly told her that, and she then turned around and surprised me by saying, yeah, I would have been okay with that. I was completely dumbfounded. Now, I was always talking about getting a vintage muscle car. But as you know, anything from the late 60s and early 70s, you have to pay through the nose if you're looking for something clean. And if you find anything that's reasonable, you don't really know what they've done to it. Being somebody like myself who is kind of a perfectionist, not really sure I would have been okay with that. Now, cars from the 80s and early 90s, especially JDM series, the values are starting to go up a little bit, but you can still find them for reasonable prices. That's when I decided, let's look for a third gen Camaro. So cousin and I started looking around for a third gen Camaro, and honestly, I wanted something originally from 86 to 90, and I wanted an IROC that was a true 350 TPI car. Once I started looking into it, to find one that's in pretty bad shape cosmetically, needs a paint job, maybe needs some body work, the cheapest I found was $7,000. Doesn't sound too bad, but you could find a better deal. So, continued to look, and then this one popped up. And the body is ridiculously clean. If you can look at this and clearly see, for a car from 92, the body is in very good shape. Mind you, this car took an hour-and-a-half trip on an open trailer in the rain to get back here. And it doesn't look that bad. There's a couple spots on the hood. There's a couple spots where the clear coat is starting to peel. There's a dent right there. But besides that, it's in really good shape. Even the interior is ridiculously clean for its age. So when I saw this car pop up on Facebook Marketplace, I messaged the seller right away, and within a couple days, I was down there to pick this car up. And I knew I had to move quick because if I didn't, I was gonna lose this car. Now, originally, this video was going to be the entire journey down to Maryland for an hour-and-a-half ride to get the car and bring it back. But since this was a Facebook Marketplace find, the last thing I wanted to do was show up with a camera because the seller could have been a little uncomfortable with that. And also, it started to rain, which I'll show you if you didn't notice there a little bit ago. So I get to the place with a friend of mine to help me get the car. Both of us get out. We immediately go into the garage, look under the car. We're not seeing any rust anywhere. We get up and say, gotta get it on the trailer. It started to rain. And unfortunately, we had to act fast because one, the T-tops weren't on the car, because the owner actually had them redone. They look pretty bad right now because we had to throw a tarp over top of it because the owner was in the process of restoring the car and took all of the molding out, including the molding for the T-tops. That's why you can see it's a little loose and there's a gap there in the middle because of the fact that there's no molding to hold it in the proper place. So although we had to sacrifice the T-tops a little bit because we had to put a tarp over the car, I am okay with that because the other option was don't put the T-tops on the car, have that roof completely open, and drive it an hour-and-a-half home in the rain and ruin the entire interior. Now, let's get over to the engine bay and show you a little bit of that. Now, like I said, this is a 305 TBI V8 engine, and there's no battery. So what we actually did is we attached a jump box to it, and then I had somebody turn the key. As long as I could hear a click, then I knew we were at least getting electrical to the car and that wouldn't be an issue. I then took a 5/8 socket, turned it on the crankshaft, was able to spin the engine freely, and it was able to turn without any issues. So then I knew that for the most part, if there's anything wrong with this car, it's a mechanical issue and hopefully is something that could be fixed. Now, this is a numbers matching car at the moment. So it's the original engine and 700 R4 automatic transmission. All of the panels have the same VIN number on it. And as you can see here, the tag on the front shows that this car was made in September and was number 3286 that came off of the assembly line in Van Nuys, California. Now, as you can see from the emission sticker here, it has the 5.0 liter on the top left corner, which is confirming that this is a 305 V8 engine. The reason why I had to run and jump on this car as fast as possible is because I paid $3,000 for this. Now, as well as the car, I got these boxes of parts, and it looks like it's all new T-top molding, which has to be installed. Looks like additional molding for all of the doors. Some of the kick plates, I would assume, and things like that. So I'm gonna have to go through all of this and see what it is. I remember he said that these are the interior door skins that you put behind the panels, the door. So I gotta dive through all of this, but as far as the molding for the doors and stuff are concerned, it might actually all be in these boxes. So that's gonna be pretty easy to put back together. In my opinion, I think this was a fantastic deal because of the condition that the car is in. Yes, it's not running. That can be something that we can fix and we will fix. Now, the son who was the owner of the car when I bought it was telling me that he was in the process of restoring it. Now, when I asked what he was trying to restore, he said he was in the process of beefing this car up to LS swap it and then just ran out of passion and had to get rid of the car. Now, that would make sense because there's no molding on anything, but also it's got discs in the rear and the RSs came with drums. Now, when I asked him about that, he told me that he put a Z28 rear into this car, so that way it had posi traction and the final gear ratio of a Z28. Now, of course, I'm gonna have to confirm that, so once I get the car up in the air and I can get underneath, I can look at that rear axle and see the numbers that are stamped into it, do some research, look it up, just to make sure that that is true. Now, this car was originally bought by his mom, and then he bought it off of her and kept it ever since. Now, before I went to go get this car, I did run a Carfax to confirm that it was a 92 Camaro RS with a 305 V8, and it was a 2-owner car, so it did pan out to show that the mom originally bought the car and then the son bought it from her. Looking at that Carfax report also showed the last time that this car had any reports was from 2012. And the car had about 20 miles less than what is currently on the car. So it's safe to say that wherever that service center was probably about 10 miles away from where they lived, was only driven to the service center and back, and then it was parked in the garage and wasn't moved since. So now, what are the next steps? Well, because it is an RS and this car has over 138,000 miles on it, first step is to get it running. You gotta figure out what's going on with this car, gotta get a battery installed in it, see if it actually turns over, and if not, go through the process. See if we have fuel, see if we have spark. If we don't have either one of them, then we gotta figure that out. Could be a cap and rotor for the distributor. Hopefully it's not a whole new distributor. If it is, at the end of the day, that's not a big deal. If it's not getting fuel, then we got to figure out why it's not getting fuel. Of course, this car has been sitting for 11 years, so the gas probably isn't the greatest either. So we're going to have to go about that. But in the next video, we're going to be diving in and seeing if we can get this car to run. Now, once we get this car on the road, of course, I just want to clean it up and enjoy it. This is a car that is going to become a family car, something my wife can take out and drive if she wants to, something the whole family can get in just to go for a cruise or a drive somewhere. A little bit different than the HHR. Then after that, just like the HHR, most likely this thing is not going to stay original. But let's just say whatever is going to happen to this car isn't going to happen anytime soon, because it's going to be quite a project. So with that being said, make sure that you're hitting that subscribe button and bell notification. That way you're getting notified of anything I upload to the channel in regards to this car or the HHR. And until next time, see you later.